Hello and welcome to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, your weekly dose of the top pro-life news and issues, all from a Catholic perspective. I'm Szeltner in our Washington, D.C. studio. Here's what to expect in this show. New research links hormonal birth control with breast cancer. Ottawa's Archbishop updates us on Canada's bubble zone law and what it means for the nation's March for Life. And this.
We're entrusting this work, this building, and all who will enter these doors.
A Virginia abortion clinic closes and is transformed into a place for health and healing. But first, our top story, the U.S. Department of Justice launches a formal investigation into Planned Parenthood for its role in the alleged sale of baby body parts.
Much of this comes from the work we did with the Select Investigative Panel and the criminal referrals that we sent over to DOJ at the beginning of the year. It is wonderful to know. It is so reassuring to know that DOJ is taking up this matter.
That's Representative Marsha Blackburn reacting to the news on her public Facebook page. Blackburn chaired the Select Congressional Panel investigating Planned Parenthood. This recently confirmed DOJ investigation comes 2 years after David Daleiden released undercover footage of Planned Parenthood employees negotiating price and compensation of fetal tissue from aborted babies. Footage also includes conversations from STEM Express representatives, a company that provides biological material for medical research. While federal laws allow compensation for fetal tissue for research purposes, it cannot be a valuable consideration and should only cover transportation and preservation costs. Planned Parenthood denies breaking the law. Representative Diane Black of Tennessee was on the Select Congressional Panel investigating Planned Parenthood. She joins us from Capitol Hill. Congressman, first off, what's your reaction to news of this Department of Justice investigation?
Well, I'm really glad that they have taken the materials that we had in our investigation given to them, and I'm glad that they are now investigating and take that more deeply. We can investigate, but we don't have powers to go beyond that, and so I'm glad that the Department of Justice is taking that material and looking to see if there is another action that needs to be taken.
Based on what you found during your time on the Select Congressional Panel investigating Planned Parenthood, do you believe the nation's largest abortion provider has broken the law?
Well, I can tell you that there were great concerns in the investigation. And indeed, if they have sold baby body parts, which is illegal, I hope that they will be held to the highest law that we have in the land to hold them accountable for that. That is illegal, and it is definitely unconscionable.
What are the consequences, Congressman, you think Planned Parenthood should face?
That'll leave up to the Department of Justice. Obviously, they are the law enforcement division of government, and they'll make that decision on if the law has been broken, what kind of penalties there will be applied to them and to individuals that cooperated in that activity.
As the chairman of the House Budget Committee, do you see this investigation as a path forward to defunding Planned Parenthood?
Well, we have already passed in the House the defunding of Planned Parenthood. Unfortunately, the Senate has not taken that up. But I believe deeply in my heart that if someone is destroying life, that they should not receive any federal dollars for the destruction of life.
You're a nurse, Congressman, of more than 40 years. What healthcare insight do you have on this investigation?
Well, abortions are not health care. It's a destruction of life. It's a destruction of a baby, and it also affects the mother for their lifetime as well. And so that is not health care. And that's the reason why I have passed legislation to say that there would be a defunding of those organizations that perform abortions, because those dollars can be more well spent for true health care in those like federally qualified health departments and so on. That's true health care. But destruction of life is not health care, and no public dollars should go to fund destruction of life.
Congressman, you are also the sponsor of the Conscience Protection Act, which would protect pro-life healthcare workers. Do you think Congress views your piece of legislation as a priority? And what would you want to say to those who don't?
Well, I will say that it is so unfair for anyone in the healthcare industry to be faced with something that violates their conscience, and to say if they don't cooperate with that, that they could lose their job or be penalized in any way. Our health care or our conscience rights is provided for in the very First Amendment to the Constitution. And we should be honoring that. If someone has a deeply held belief against participating in such an activity of destruction of life, they should not be losing their job or be penalized in any way at all. So I believe that we should acknowledge this, and this is a piece of legislation that needs to move forward in both the House and the Senate and to be signed into law to give protection to our healthcare workers.
It's something we will continue to monitor closely. Representative Diane Black of Tennessee, thank you for your insight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
For a reaction and further analysis, we turn to our trusted pro-life expert. Mallory Quigley is Communications Director for the Susan B. Anthony List. Mallory, thanks again for being back with us.
It's great to be with you as always.
Put this DOJ investigation into perspective for us. How hopeful should we as pro-lifers get about this investigation? Can we actually see an end to Planned Parenthood?
I think that this is an absolute game changer. You know, David Daleiden and the Center for Medical Progress made such an extreme sacrifice, putting their lives and their time on the line to get this undercover footage, without which this really wouldn't be possible. But a major hurdle for 8 years has been the Obama administration, which has protected Planned Parenthood and the entire abortion industry for a very long time. So this is a complete game changer to have a true investigation. You know, the House and the Senate investigative panels and committees did their part, and now it's DOJ's turn to really look into this and start to prosecute them.
We'll see what they do with this. Planned Parenthood continues to say these videos are heavily edited. What do you make of their defense?
There is no lie too big for them to tell to try and get out from under this investigation. You know, there's been multiple, one even done commissioned by Planned Parenthood, a study that found no significant audio or visual editing in these films. David has attempted to release all of the footage. He's in some places been prevented from doing so by the court. But you know, Cecile Richards, I think this is really telling. The very first video that came out with Deb Nucatola, the one who was, you know, drinking wine and talking very graphically, very casually, yes. Cecile Richards came out and herself and did a video apologizing for that. That is such a huge admission of guilt. And then we've got this news in the last week that their partners, fetal procurement company partners, DV Biosciences and Da Vinci Biosciences, they've actually admitted to breaking federal and California law and have settled now with the state. That right there, these were companies that were being supplied by Planned Parenthood. There's great evidence to suggest that they were getting, that Planned Parenthood was getting kickbacks from these for-profit companies. And that right there, you know, if you don't believe the videos, the evidence is truly mounting.
It's showing itself in the courts, and we'll have a little bit more on that story in a bit. You spoke about the role of the DOJ in all of this. Jeff Sessions heads the Department of Justice. What do we know about him and his pro-life stance?
Sure. Well, before he was Attorney General, he was Senator Sessions, and he has a 100% pro-life record. Wow. There's really no greater ally in the pro-life movement, and he is just the kind of person to take this on and to hold the abortion industry accountable when they've really been left to do their dirty work in the shadows for so many years.
And finally, you heard Congressman Black's answer regarding the Conscience Protection Act. What are its chances in Congress? Yeah,
this is a huge battle that we've been mobilizing people now for many weeks. It's going to be very difficult. I can't withhold that from viewers, that this is a really uphill climb, because we're trying to get this included on an appropriations bill, which is going to require 60 votes. So, the pro-abortion Democrats will be fighting tooth and nail to get out any social policy from this appropriations bill. But we have strong pro-life allies in the House and Senate, and in the White House, and all those pieces are going to play a role in these appropriations negotiations. So I just urge people to stay involved and to keep fighting and praying.
And to take action. Mallory Quigley with the Susan B. Anthony List. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Good news, pro-lifers. There is still a chance to pass the Conscience Protection Act through Congress. Because Congress passed a spending bill to avoid a government shutdown and to keep the government running through December 22nd, we now have an extended period of time to include the Conscience Protection Act in the must-pass appropriations bill. As a reminder, current U.S. federal law does not sufficiently protect the conscience rights of healthcare professionals and others. Health professionals, against their religious beliefs, can be forced to participate in abortions. It's happened before, and it can happen again. The Conscience Protection Act would stop that, which is why you need to get involved and help get this pro-life legislation passed. Here is how you can take action. Go to your smartphone or computer right now. Type in this website, prolifeweekly.com. That is prolifeweekly.com. It's on the screen right now. At this website, you will see 3 boxes. One, to type in your first name, a second to type in your last name, and finally a third box to type in your email address. Once you fill out that simple information, you will click Add My Name. This sends a message to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to include the Conscience Protection Act and the upcoming appropriations bill. If it passes, it would bar the federal government and any state and local governments that receive federal funding from taking action against healthcare professionals who conscientiously object to performing, paying, or participating in any procedure they find morally objectionable. Go to prolifeweekly.com. That's prolifeweekly.com. Type in your information and click Add My Name. This is a priority for the U.S. bishops, for pro-life leaders, and we are asking for you to make this a priority. Take a minute of your time and follow this week's call to action. Tell Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to include the Conscience Protection Act and the upcoming appropriations bill. Go to prolifeweekly.com. Turning now to more pro-life news, 2 Southern California bioscience companies have reached a nearly $8 million settlement with the Orange County District Attorney's Office regarding their illegal sale of aborted baby body parts. The Los Angeles Times reports that DV Biologics and sister company Da Vinci Biosciences agreed to the settlement after being implicated in the undercover Planned Parenthood videos. The companies must cease all operations in California within 60 to 120 days. They are also required to admit liability for violations of state and federal laws, which prohibit the sale or purchase of fetal tissue for research purposes. Also in California, the Little Sisters of the Poor went back to court this week to defend themselves from the HHS contraceptive mandate. While their 4-year legal ordeal was close to an end, California's Attorney General sued to take away the sisters' religious exemption from the rule. The religious sisters are hoping they can continue their vital ministry of caring for their elderly poor without violating their faith. And a recent Danish study reveals a roughly 20% increased risk of breast cancer among women on hormonal contraception compared to those using non-hormonal contraceptives. The research published in the New England Journal of Medicine included a group of 1.8 million women between the ages of 15 and 49 over the course of more than 10 years. The Catholic Church has long condemned contraception because it separates procreation from the sexual act. But the Church does approve of natural family planning, which allows couples to remain open to life. Now we go to more pro-life headlines from around the world with EWTN's Valeria Longi.
Bolivian lawmakers voted last week to reduce abortion restrictions, despite opposition from the Catholic and evangelical churches. The new measure will allow, quote, students, adolescents, or girls to have an abortion up to the 8th week of pregnancy. The measure does not specify ages. Bolivia's current law permits abortion in cases of rape, incest, when the mother's life is in danger, or if the unborn baby has malformations. Armando Mayorga, editor-in-chief of the Costa Rican journal La Nación, publicly apologized for not informing their readers of a pro-life march held in the country on December 3rd in San Jose, the country's capital. The journal claims the massive walk was not included due to a lamentable confusion. Event organizers have reported 600,000 people participated in the pro-life march. The Irish Times reports the pro-abortion group Irish Family Planning Association must clarify why it received $150,000 from the George Soros Open Society Foundation. The donation may have broken Ireland's political funding rules. Valeria Longi, EWTN, Pro-Life Weekly.
Thank you, Valeria, for those updates. Our next guest says new Ontario laws could put an end to Canada's National March for Life. The bubble zone law, also known as the buffer zone, was passed in Ontario this past October. It restricts pro-lifers from protesting within 50 to 150 meter parameters established outside abortion clinics, pharmacies, and doctors' offices. In a column for the Ottawa Sun, Archbishop Terrence Prendergast says there's no route for the March for Life to move through downtown Ottawa that doesn't violate this restriction. Ottawa's Archbishop Terrence Prendergast joins us now from Ottawa, Canada. Your Excellency, thank you for your time.
My pleasure, Catherine. Good to be with you and your audience.
Thank you. First off, it's been over a month now since the bubble zone restriction was passed. Do you still believe Canada's March for Life is at risk?
I'm not sure. We simply have the law, and we haven't had any testing of the law. The bubble law says that 40 to 50 meters to 150 meters. So you're looking at 150 to 450 feet. That's quite a distance. Mm-hmm. And if people ask for an injunction, let's say a pharmacy, the abortion center, hospital, there might be very few places where we can travel safely as the march. However, none of that's been tested yet. Where the 40 Days for Life had about 5 days to run when the law came in, and they decided to do away with it as a precaution. So, but we also have the Life Chain in October, and we have the March for Life in May.
For our viewers who haven't been to or heard of Canada's National March for Life, Archbishop, can you tell us about it? Is there a lot of violence? Is there a lot of civil disobedience?
What we have is basically some liturgical services in the morning, mostly at the Cathedral and St. Patrick's Basilica and another church. And then also some Reformed churches, some other temples will have prayer services. And then at noon, we gather on Parliament Hill. And the number of people gathering between 18 and 25,000, might even go up to 27, 28,000 this year. It's been growing year by year, and a lot of them are young people, come from all over Ontario. So it's at that particular point, we have speeches on the hill in front of the Peace Tower, and then we start marching. And in the last couple of years, the police have redirected us at the last minute because there were counter-protesters. And rather than have a conflict, they've moved us away. Our people are not very happy about that, but we've adjusted and we've gone along with it. But it shows that a very small number of people, 100 to 150 people, can disrupt 25,000 people. That's what we have no control over that.
And it is a very prayerful and peaceful event. What is your message to the Ottawa's legislator? What action do you want to see from them regarding the bubble zone law?
Well, you have to be careful here because there are two forces. The law is an Ontario law. It's not a federal law. Even though we meet on Parliament Hill for the national gathering, the law was established by the province of Ontario with the consent and the encouragement of the city of Ottawa. The mayor of Ottawa wanted this bubble zone because I think it suits his constituency. And I think we need to say that the law is not there as an appropriate vehicle, and we need to think it should be changed. We need to be able to have free speech, which means that we need to say what we feel about abortion and not be shut down. That's what this does. It shuts down at least 3 major events a year: the 40 Days for Life, the Life Chain, and the National March for Life. How it's going to affect the March for Life this coming year, I don't know, but I needed to signal the warning. That's what I did.
Archbishop Terrence Prendergast, thank you for your pro-life leadership and for your time.
You're most welcome, Catherine. All the very best.
When we come back.
So I hope that this story, this reality, is a great source of encouragement.
After years of prayer and perseverance, an abortion clinic closes down and is now transformed into a truly pro-life place. Stay tuned as EWTN Pro-Life Weekly continues after this break. Am I not here, I who am your mother? Is there anything else you need? That's part of Our Lady of Guadalupe's message to St. Juan Diego in 1531. We celebrate Our Lady of Guadalupe's feast day this week. She is the patroness of the Americas and of the unborn. You will notice the black girdle about her waist. That signifies Our Lady is pregnant. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Szeltner. Right now, we are going to address a lie about natural family planning being perpetuated by Planned Parenthood's own president. Take a listen to what Cecile Richards recently said about the Trump administration's promotion of fertility awareness.
Yes, which I think most of us are aware of our fertility, but to really redirect it away from artificial family planning to natural family planning. Which,
we're going to go back to the rhythm method? I cannot
back to the rhythm method, yes, back to the rhythm method.
This is like an episode of Mad Men or something.
It is, it's completely insane.
That's Planned Parenthood President Cecile Richards earlier this month at the Women in the World Texas Salon event. The fourth annual event is described as an opportunity to increase social awareness of global issues affecting women. While I find it unlikely Cecile Richards is genuinely ignorant on what fertility awareness means, let's give her the benefit of the doubt and assume she's not lying and she really doesn't know. If that's the case, here's a free lesson. Fertility awareness is not the rhythm method. The rhythm method is outdated and unreliable, but fertility awareness is when a woman makes observations about her own unique body to better understand it and to properly care for it. Planned Parenthood cannot advocate for choice and then mock women who would rather cooperate with how their body naturally works instead of pumping it with hormones. And now, more than ever, women should be turning to natural family planning methods. New research reveals a roughly 20% increased risk of breast cancer among women on hormonal contraception compared to those who are not. It should be so clear. Fertility awareness does not suppress women. It is empowering for women. And it is a shame that an event marketed as pro-woman would mock anyone for seeing that truth. But remember, there is always something you can do to counter today's culture of death. You can follow this week's call to action. Tell Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to include the Conscience Protection Act in the upcoming appropriations bill. Go to prolifeweekly.com to speak up for conscience rights. An abortion clinic in Virginia is now closed. But that's not where this next story ends, and it's a testimony to the power of prayer and perseverance. Take a look at this week's Pro-Life Focus.
So I have gotten a couple emails from Alexander.
This Northern Virginia parking lot has been a regular meeting place for local pro-lifers for nearly 3 decades. The faithful would routinely pray here outside of the Amethyst Health Center for Women, an abortion clinic. The prayers and steps that followed led to a recent and radical transformation.
People were here at least a quarter of a century praying, meeting with people and stuff, and then it was a tremendous intervention. This is probably one of the best examples of the encounter that Pope Francis talks about, where one of those people doing it had an encounter with the lady that owned this abortion clinic, talked to her, and then helped her bilaterally to make a decision saying, no, I don't need to be in this work anymore. And so then a group of people got together and bought her out. And my understanding is she's still kind of discerning getting into the church herself.
On a November Sunday, the same Virginia parking lot is full again, but this time it's for a celebration.
To me, it's like a miracle.
Life wins. I'm so happy.
This is still a leap of faith, and it is faith. It's faith that allows us to do this.
The Diocese of Arlington, Virginia's Bishop Michael Burbidge blesses what is now the Mother of Mercy Free Medical Clinic.
By the grace of your Holy Spirit, make this place a house of blessing and a center of love.
The former abortion clinic has not only closed, it's been converted into a free medical clinic for the poor run by Catholic Charities. Starting this month, volunteer doctors and nurses will provide medical services for the estimated 8,000 local uninsured who are in need of care.
What we're doing here, I think, is working from shutting down the abortion clinic and then the redemptive work of really helping families that are most in need. So it's a great example of the church's commitment to solidarity, really loving your neighbor, not just helping your neighbor, loving your neighbor in a deep way.
I hope that this story, this reality, is a great source of encouragement.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners.
Bishop Burbidge reflects on the powerful role prayer played to make this pro-life vision a reality.
I can't help but this to be a sign to them from God that, all those prayers, all those rosaries that you offer, calling upon the help of our Blessed Mother, they are never in vain. and God will use them in miraculous ways and at times you cannot anticipate nor expect. This is an example of that.
God works in his own time. Things don't ever go as quickly as we want, but I think if we're really faithful to the mission of the church, do it in a very dignified way, respectful of people, then over time people can change their hearts and minds.
This healthcare center is a testimony to prayer and perseverance, because at the Mother of Mercy Free Medical Clinic, where death once dwelled, life now reigns.
Of God, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit come upon this facility and all who enter into this place and remain with you forever and ever.
Amen.
Mother of Mercy, pray for us. That's it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. You can reach us anytime with questions, ideas, comments at prolifeweekly@ewtn.com. I look forward to seeing you here again next week. Remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.